Welcome back to another episode of the 90th Percentile Podcast. No Ross this week. I'm your host, Owen Hurd, joined this week by Chris Clegg of the Dynasty Dugout. Chris, it's great to have you. If you want to share with our listeners where they can find your work and kind of what you're working on.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. Looking forward to the conversation today regarding the draft and FYPD. Always a favorite of mine. But yeah, you can find me Twitter, anywhere, Chris Clegg, MILBSCLEGG. And I'm written works the Dynasty Dugout and podcasts there as well. So yeah, just kind of grinding on draft stuff, doing more and more evaluations on players, slotting prospects into their new team system. So that's kind of what I've been working on recently this week, is just like, how do these guys fit into the larger scheme of the prospect pool, and fixing to kind of drop all the updated team prospect rankings, and then it'll be like overall rankings as well. So back on the grind, minor league starting back today. Got Brooklyn in town, which is fun. I typically don't get some of those northern affiliates, but Brooklyn's down here for the weekend. So definitely some good talent with the bats and arms. So looking forward to seeing those guys.
Yeah, that's Jacob Reamer, Jay Ewing, Levi Serrano, right down there.
Yeah, lots of good
talent. That's a fun trio right there.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, Chris, I sub to the Dynasty Dugout. I love the community that you've kind of built with the Discord, and just, feels like every day there's something to look forward to.
I appreciate it.
Love that about kind of what you've built and what you got going on. So I'm excited for this. I know you released your FYPD rankings this year, and, I don't know if you feel the same way about this, but I feel like this is a year, if you have one of those kind of top 3 FYPD picks, this is a year I'm looking to trade down. One of those kind of get maybe somewhere in the 6 to 8 range, get maybe a JoJo if he falls, Jamie Arnold, Liam Doyle extra pick next year where it's a much better class. Do you feel that same way?
Yeah, I think that taking the fallen talent is definitely the way to go. Like, there's definitely some guys that will fall just based on how it feels like a big tier kind of to me at the top. And a lot of people have different evaluations. I was on the RotoWire FYPD mock a couple nights ago, and it was just interesting. I've not looked at anybody's rankings, but to look at how other people value guys for the first time was like, okay, it's the first time it feels like there's no consensus at all. So It'll be an interesting year for sure. So I'm kind of shopping in like the 20 to 30 range. I think there's a lot of guys I like there and potential to get there. So,
yeah, I agree with you.
It's kind of interesting.
I feel like, I don't think I've seen, more than like a few FYPD ranks with the same kind of 1-1. I've seen for me, it's Eli Willits. Personally, I could be talked into Seth Hernandez, though. I think he's just that talented of a pitcher. I've seen JoJo Parker. I think I've seen a couple with like Jamie Arnold. It just feels like it's kind of like, everybody's got something different of where they're going this year. So if you want to just do a quick run through of your top 15 and kind of how you feel like each of those guys will slot into your top 100.
Yeah. So I've got Willits at the top, and I don't know how I feel about that. It's kind of how I slotted it pre-draft. He goes 1-1. I think I could argue Kate Anderson at 1. I've got him second, and I think that fit was just a dream made in heaven in Seattle. I mean, you look at kind of what the Mariners have done developmental wise with this kind of mold. Obviously, like a Wu and a Bryce Miller are different, but like a Logan Gilbert and George Kirby kind of fit a similar mold to what Kate Anderson is. And I think you get pitched in that rotation early next year. Certainly could be, him being in 1 wouldn't shock me if I made that move. Like, now I know the team fit, but I have Hernandez at 3, kind of along there with you. I think the upside is there to be the best player in the class. Just tremendous arm, his frame checks all the boxes. I mean, he's a great athlete and mover with 4 above average pitches, pretty good traits. So I really like what he brings to the table. Have Gavin Fiend 4th. Again, not sure how I feel about it. I'm still trying to figure out like all the prep side of things, like just going through and like rewatching and re-looking at data. But Fiend was the best showcase performer last year. Like, of any high school player, he had the best showcase data. He's up to like 111 with Wood, consistent at EVs over 100. So like, Fiend looks like a guy that could be a hit power combo. And I have JoJo Parker coming in next at 5. Similar kind of mold where good field to hit. He's well filled out. He's a little small. I say smaller. He's shorter than Gavin Fiend, but he's strong, sturdy build. He's actually a pretty decent runner for the size. Like, his clock times are good, quick first step, hit tool's good. We'll kind of see how that plays out, but I'll probably juggle these guys back and forth in rankings a lot, it seems like. But I've got a couple pitchers in the next three: Jamie Arnold, Liam Doyle, and Tyler Bremner. All different landing spots, all kind of, I think, pretty good fits, actually. Obviously, we see Bremner in Los Angeles is kind of like not sure, they don't really develop. They just kind of shove guys and let them do their thing. But on the flip side, we now see guys that are doing individualized training. They're going to facilities. So I think Bremner just needs to further develop the slider. And I think that he could be a really good arm. He's a high floor, fast mover. It's a pretty outlierish fastball that he made some tweaks within season. The metrics improved, and the changeup, you just watch it. It's arguably the best changeup in the draft. I think Liam Doyle has the best fastball in the draft. He's got a pretty good splitter too. It's just the usage. It's the aggression in the delivery. He falls off pretty hard third base side. There's some reliever traits, but also this is kind of the mold that Garrett Crochet was coming out of college, and we see how he has developed. While it has taken a little bit longer, you see that upside. And Jamie Arnold, I think, is actually interesting with the Athletics. It was a big fall. Athletics take best player available. And it was kind of the word that Arnold would fall in the draft. That's kind of just how it was. He didn't do anything to hurt his stock, but I don't think he did anything to help his stock either. He just had a really solid year all around. It's just so unique. We haven't seen many guys give this kind of look. But the Athletics have had some success developing pitchers. I think they've been underrated in that sense. And I know we don't look at JP Sears as a great arm, but JP Sears is kind of this interesting, kind of funky lefty that the Athletics actually have developed into a starter. Arnold obviously has way better stuff, but I think that, the Athletics could develop Arnold into a really solid, SP3 type, which I think is solid. So that gets us to 8 between those guys. I have Ethan Holiday coming in at 8. Got a lot of flack for this one. I'm just not sure I see the hit tool there. And I still feel like I'm going out on a bit of a limb with Ethan Holiday at this high. I know that's not the consensus by any means, but I don't want to be consensus. So that's okay. I'm just putting out what I see and evaluate. And I see on the showcase side, some struggling with the hit tool. 70% end zone contact last summer, struggled with velocity substantially, didn't pull a single fastball in the showcase. And so those things concern me. Now there's power. You look at the senior season numbers and yeah, this kid's a stud, but we'll see when he faces better competition. I won't say the pitching he faced in Oklahoma was all that great, but we do have to acknowledge there's power upside. He's going to play in Coors Field, which counteracts the hit tool a little bit. The counteraction of that is that the Rockies' track record developing hitters is not good. So we'll kind of see how that works out. Ivar Arquette slots in next. He's an interesting player. He mashes fastballs, struggles against breaking balls. The 65% contact rate on breaking balls is a question mark for me, but good approach, good overall contact. He had a 354, 461, 654 slash, 19 homers, 108, 9th percentile EV, 60% hard hit rate. He just checks a lot of boxes, and he could be a fast mover with Miami. So good fit there for Arquette. And then it's Ike Irish, who did fall, and I'm seeing mixed evaluations on Ike Irish from people that I've talked to. And I think that some of it is off-field stuff. It's not necessarily performance stuff, which is a reason that he fell. But, a 3-year track record in the SEC for Ike Irish, best competition in college baseball. He was consistent. He had home runs. The data was good. He was 80% overall contact every year, upper 80% to 90% end zone, all 3 seasons, low chase rate, good EVs. So, I think that when you look at the whole profile, Ike Irish is going to hit. It's just, where does he slot in the field? So that's an interesting question. But then I got a couple of the prep shortstops, Billy Carlson and Steele Hall. I've come around on Steele Hall a lot more as of recent. He is smaller, kind of a question mark. He's also young. He's just a tremendous athlete, and he may be the best individual athlete in the class. So that stands out in a big way. And you look at Billy Carlson, and I know people look at him he's a glove first guy. I get it. Big arm, great shortstop, but there's intangibles as well in the box. It's still got some projection. It's a pretty simple swing with good loft, really good contact, sub 10% chase rate on the showcase. So those things stand out. The numbers against velocity and breaking balls are good, really good athlete, good run times. We'll see how the power projects. So, for me, that one's kind of interesting to kind of see how it plays. And then we'll see where I'm at on the ranks. I think that next would be 13, and that is Brendan Summerhill, who probably higher on the consensus, but Summerhill is just a really good hitter. He did see the exit velocities drop this year, so that's kind of the question. I think if he had maintained what he did his sophomore season, he's a top 5 pick. probably the best combo of hit and approach in the class. He's a good athlete, plus runner. If the EVs tick up by chance, like he could be a 15 homer bat and like steal 25 bags with really good average and OBP because the barrel control is so good. The launch angles are so good. He checks a lot of boxes there. And then rounding out the last two spots is Ethan Conrad, who I think some people were shocked went to the Cubs. But again, Conrad was trending towards top 10 pick status before he had a shoulder injury, but just tremendous. He kind of proved himself. Small school at Marist, transfers to Wake, absolutely dominates. I mean, plus EVs like 110, or max was north of 110, 92% in zone contact. Chase and swing decisions were above average. I see a lot of like Chase DeLauder. I know it feels like a lazy comp, but I like Chase DeLauder comp there. I don't comp much. And then Kyson Witherspoon, who I think kind of fell in a great development spot with the Boston Red Sox. So, that's my 15th guy. And just 5-pitch mix, good command, good athlete, really good fastball. So I'm really excited to see what the Red Sox do with Witherspoon. Talking to some of their guys internally, like they did not expect him to be there. And so they were beyond thrilled to get Witherspoon at the pick they did. So yeah, it's my kind of like broad overview of the top 15.
No, I appreciate it. I'm right there with you on Holiday. And like, as in the nature of this pod, I was thinking about, I know you hate player comps, but I gotta get something out of you, like a 90th percentile outcome for some of these guys. So I actually like the DeLauder one for Conrad. I don't think he's gonna be flashy, but maybe like a above average hitter, 20 to 25 stolen base guy. So there's fantasy, maybe like I'm thinking like one of Brandon Nimmo's better years is kind of one that kind of comes to mind for me, maybe a bit more stolen bases, but I'm right there with you. I've got Willis as my number one, and I don't know. He's so young. So there's a lot that can go right, but he doesn't turn 18 till December. On the flip side, you could be looking at like maybe like a James Triantos type if the power doesn't kind of come along. So that's kind of why I could be talked into Hernandez at one, is I think that, I think the upside is right there kind of with Willis and maybe not as big of a question. I think he's a good strike thrower, 3+ pitches, in my opinion, room to grow into the frame, dominated a really tough state against good high school competition. Then I've got JoJo Parker at 3. I like the hit and the power combo. I don't really think the kind of speed is kind of right where kind of Willis's is. That's why he's a bit lower for me. And like you said, I agree, he's kind of a bit filled out. I'm not sure I kind of see a lot of the projection that I do with a lot of these prep guys. I've got Cade Anderson at 4. I think in hindsight, could probably put him a spot or two higher. I think that, like you said, that's a great fit with the Mariners. They've done great with this type of arm. I think he's somebody who, he is one of the kind of like, he has the best combination, in my opinion, of safety and kind of upside amongst these college pitchers. I think he's a guy, he could be a number 2 starter realistically as early as middle of next season. I think that's just how advanced that he is. And then I have Ethan Holiday at 5, although in hindsight, I'm probably going to swap him and Jamie Arnold's. Holiday down to 6, Arnold at 5. I found a bit of his showcase highlights, and he just looked beat by just the good velo, and the 70% zone contact is just really rough. So I think I have him. I have him 50 overall in my top 100 right now. That's about as high as I feel good about putting him. I'm sure I'm going to see him a little bit higher, but I think it's very like, on one hand, like I see a little bit of reminiscence to an Austin Riley as maybe a better case outcome for him. And then I think more realistically, maybe a Max Muncy, Eugenio Suarez type.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I mean, the power's undeniable. So like you look at it and like you could certainly see him hitting 30 homers. Does it come with a 220 batting average? Maybe, but he could have seasons where it's above that too. So it's a wide range of outcomes. And I think the same can be said for Eli Willits.
Yeah.
I look at Willits and I'm like, okay, he could go the route of like a Kevin McGonigal and maintain better speed. The hit tool's there, the speed's there. It's just a question of power. I mean, he's got all the other traits, but like, what's the floor? Like, is the floor a 10 home run bat that steals 15 to 20 bags with a higher average? And like, how valuable is that for fantasy? So I can see the argument.
That's Nico Horner territory.
Yeah, and he's fine, but like he's not like got to draft him on FYPD kind of thing. So that's my question mark. It's like, okay, do I really like Willits enough there to say like I'm gonna like put my stamp of approval on him as the number 1 player in the class? So, but like I don't know who else. Like Anderson makes sense. I think Seth Hernandez could make sense as well. But other than that, it's kind of like, I don't know. I'm not really comfortable saying any of these guys are like slam dunks.
Yeah, no, I think it's, I was looking at how my kind of FYPDs last year compared to this year. And I was like, I think it was initially it was either 4 or 5 with Bazana, Condon, Burns, Kurtz, and maybe there's one more that I'm missing, but it was at least 4 in my top 25 of my top 100 just right after draft. This year, the only guy in that is Seth Hernandez, and he's number 25 for me. I think outside of that, Willits, I have a few spots back in kind of that Colt Emerson range. I was trying to think of a good kind of range to put him at. Maybe you have some questions about the power, but the hit tool is going to be good. So I think that's kind of where I'm at with Willits. And then I have Jamie Arnold at 42. So he's kind of my number 2 college pitcher behind Anderson. I think I like what the A's have done kind of recently with Gage Jump and Luis Morales. You've seen kind of they get their hand on arms and they can, the stuff has improved. So I'm hoping that could be, I wouldn't call him a pitching lab quite yet, but I think there's some interesting storylines in that farm system on the pitching side. And then, 7 and 8 for me are Liam Doyle and Ava Arquette. I've got Doyle, I think 51 right behind Holiday at 50. And then Arquette, I want to say Arquette, it's kind of a weird profile because there's some swing and miss. There's some good pop for a shortstop, maybe not plus pop or, elite pop, but I think the speed's going to be okay too. So for fantasy, I think it's an interesting profile. I do kind of have some questions. The Marlins just scare the crap out of me when it comes to college bats. I've seen the Jacob Berries of the world, and so I think I have them like 60. I want to say like 60, 68 overall right now. And then I have Billy Carlson at 9 for fantasy. That one kind of scares me a little bit because I think on one hand, the floor is, defense alone, he could be a big leaguer. But I think on the flip side of that, what are you getting out of the bat? I think, is the hit tool above average? Maybe. I don't think the power is going to be great. I think he's kind of one, I might drop him a little bit, but I've got Ethan Conrad at 10. I think that, I think it's a good floor there. And I like the Chase DeLauder comp that you threw out earlier. I think, maybe not flashy at one thing, but kind of does a few good things for fantasy, good across the board. I have Ike Irish at 11. I like kind of the hit power combo. I don't think he sticks at catcher, but I think if you have like a, dual eligibility catcher outfielder with a good hit tool and good pop, I think that's enticing for fantasy for me. I have Brendan Summerhill after that. I'm a little bit concerned about the EVs, but I think, if you can get average power with a good hit tool and good speed, that definitely has its fantasy value. I've got Gavin Feen at 13, probably a little bit lower than I've seen some people on him, but I tend to be kind of more of the wait and see when it comes to prep guys. I don't think he's kind of quite the athlete, so I think it's a very hit power dependent profile. I kind of just want to see how that translates. I've got Kyson Witherspoon, same spot as you, so number 14 for me. I love the fit with Boston. I play fantasy baseball with a scout with the Red Sox, and he texted me. He's like, dude, this was a great pick. Like, we did not think he was going to be available here. And then I know you've got him a little bit lower, but I've got Devin Taylor at 15. Like, I love the hit power combo. It's definitely not an every format fantasy player. I think he's, it doesn't not going to be a good runner. Defensively, it's probably a corner outfield first base profile, but I think the hit and the power are both plus. I watched a good amount of him at Indiana. I think he's one of the more pro ready bats in the class. I think he's somebody who can move extremely quickly. And I think even with the defensive and the speed questions, I think bat alone is somebody who, I would take him over some of those other guys who have more questions a little bit further back for me.
Yeah, I love Taylor as well. I've got him 20, so not far behind. I think it's just feels rather safe from the college side of things. In a crop where it's like you don't have as many guys like that. I think that Taylor's going to be an on-base machine, 17% chase rate this year, and really good contact numbers, good powers. No, I like the Taylor spot, and I like him a lot in general in FYPD. I think he can move rather quickly. We've seen the Athletics kind of push these type of profiles, and I think that that's a really good fit for him as well. Yeah. So definitely a fun one there.
He gives me some kind of Nick Kurtz shades. Not quite the game power that Kurtz had, but got the on-base skills and the hit tool, in my opinion, that I think Kurtz had. So I think realistically, this is someone who could debut in AA second half of this season, and he's up in AAA by early next year. That's
absolutely
definitely an aggressive track, but I think he took some, like, he's not, I think what I love about him the most is he's not like too passive, but he knows his pitches. He knows, like, okay, this is not my pitch to hit. I'm going to lay off this pitch. And I think that's a really good foundation there. Is like, is he flashy? Maybe not. But I think this is a guy who's going to give you 20 to 25 home runs, a high 300s on base percentage, and a 280, 290 average. So very solid big leaguer.
Yeah, I'm kind of step with you there. Just probably a similar tier as well as far as rankings go. So I'm very much in there as well.
I know you know, who were some of those some of those best value picks for you looking at the draft? I know you like Briggs McKenzie a lot. He's a guy that, you know, I'm going to write about him. I like him a lot as well. But who are some of those picks for you that might have been some of those mid to later round picks, but that, you know, you would take a shot on the upside at maybe like a second round in a deeper FYPD?
Yeah, there's definitely some good spots for guys. And, you know, the MLB draft is so tricky given how the bonus pools work and how teams utilize their money. But again, they tell you a lot. You know, they kind of speak volume about how they feel. I know signability now is different. NIL in college, you got to pay up sometimes to get your guys. But if a org is willing to shell out well above slot, then I like players that tells me the org likes him. So that was the case with Briggs McKenzie. The Braves gave him near $3 million, which was, I think, like a 500 something K slot bonus there. So really good left-handed arm. James Quinn Irons, George Mason University. I think he was probably the best mid-major bat. And you look and he goes to the Rays, which can kind of be a blessing and a curse. You know, the Rays, we've seen them platoon a lot of guys. They have such a good and deep farm system that it makes it hard. But you look at the under the hood and James Quinn Irons, like the data is just absurd. He had 16 home runs this past season, 42 extra base hits, 36 stolen bases, and had 419, 523, 734 slash. That's obviously stand out, but I could care less about the mid-major slash line when he's doing the stuff he is under the hood. He had one of the best 9th percentile exit velocities in the draft at 111. Max of 116. I mean, major leap in contact. That was kind of the question. This year, the overall contact rate was around 81%, and the end zone contact rate jumped from 77 up to 89%. So a major leap there. Chase rate of 21%. So if you like the models and the data darlings, like James Quinn Irons kind of fits that mold with the Rays. So he's certainly somebody that I'm going to draft a lot of in those rounds, like the mid rounds, I guess. I don't know where he'll go in FYPD. He's like a top 50 FYPD guy for me. Nathan Hall with the Arizona Diamondbacks. This is somebody that he's always stood out to me. He's a local here in South Carolina, played at Clemson sparingly, transferred to South Carolina this year. And he really just caught my eye early. And I talked to a lot of local scouts that had Nathan Hall above Cam Canarella of Clemson, and Hall went 150 picks after him. You know, Hall's numbers were good this year. He transitions to the SEC. He does a lot of things well. He's a 6'3" center fielder with plus speed. It can be a bit of a long swing at times, but good on plane efficiency. Like those numbers really check out. The frame's good. He ran a 108 9th percentile and a 113 max. Contact rate was just shy of 80% in the SEC, which is good. Honestly, like the bat profiles very closely to like Ike Irish when you're looking at like the contact power metrics. Then you factor in like Hall can also run. The difference is like Irish chase rate's a little lower. I'd say the approach for Irish is much better. Hall chased it was above average for college at 28%. So I look at Nathan Hall and think that he's a really good pick. I think the Diamondbacks took him in the 5th round. So he's somebody that I look at and I'm like, yeah, this kid, like, he didn't get the love that he deserved, but all the data, the scout feedback really backs it. I love Mason Neville with the Reds, Oregon product. And the Reds drafted him twice. They drafted him out of high school. He signs. They drafted him 4th round this year. He had 26 homers and 16 doubles this year. He cut the chase rate pretty substantially. He cut the strikeout rate. Contact rates jumped. Like, pretty well-rounded, good EVs. He had a 108 90th as well. So good launch angles. Barrel rate was like 32% or something stupid like that. One of the highest barrel rates in college baseball. He fell to the 4th round. There were some off-the-field things that kind of led teams to not take him that high. I talked to guys in the Reds org that had first-round grades on him, though, from a baseball player standpoint. So they were happy to get him there. You know, those guys really popped to me. Yeah, in addition to Briggs McKenzie, who I like, and Connor Essenberg, the Braves also drafted, gave him a well above slot. I liked him as a pitcher. The pitch data was good, and he also just evolved as a hitter as well. And a guy up in your neck of the woods, Corbin Dickerson, they went to the Mariners, thought that was a pretty tremendous pick where they got him. Obviously started at Louisville, broke out in a big way this year. Data was just off the charts, pretty solid contact and approach numbers, and the plus power and speed potential, like, I kind of check some boxes for me at least. So there were some college guys I think that got undervalued in the draft that could be good FYPD sleepers.
Yeah, no, you took Corbin Dickerson right out of my mouth. Like I remember I saw a lot of him, and every time I saw him, he was the best hitter on the field. Like he's definitely a bit chase heavy. He will, run down and try and get those sliders low and away and those kind of curveballs that kind of, might just clip the bottom corner of the zone. He's a guy, when he hits it hard. I was hearing EVs of up to 118 for him at Indiana. He's a really good athlete. Not really, the stolen bases might not show up, but he's a really good runner too. I think this is the hit tool it's maybe like I think it's a 45 hit, 60 power, 60 speed. That's a really interesting profile to me. I thought he would be a second round pick to a team with a good developmental org who would take that. Maybe the hit tool is never going to be great, but we're getting a potential 2020 guy right here. So I was shocked that he fell to the 5th round. So I thought that was really good value there. Another Indiana guy, but for me, Matthew Fisher was an arm that I really liked. I was shocked that he got to the 7th round with the Phillies. I think the present stuff is good. The fastball's up to 94. I think it's an average pitch. The sweeper, upper 70s to low 80s. I think that's another interesting one too. The changeup has got some good fade too. I think there's potentially 3 55 pitches here in the future that could flash plus with good commands. I like this mold from a high school product. I think a lot of these arms, you're looking at maybe 1 to 2 pitches that, are like, okay, these are good pitches. The rest you're going to need to develop them. I think like presently it's interesting. You would look at this from like a college arm. It's like, oh, this is maybe a back end arm, but Matthew Fisher is one that he really interests me. And I think there's maybe starting pitcher 3 upside here with Fisher. Lands in a good developmental work with the Phillies. So he was one that interests me. Anthony Ianson was another one I really liked with Boston. I was shocked that he got to the end of the 3rd with them. He was one I thought that he would end up potentially late 1st or kind of a comp pick there. Really good season with LSU. Had that dominant 1-2 with Cade Anderson, 3.0 ERA, 2.49 FIP, 12.6 strikeouts per 9, 3 walks per 9, and 108 innings pitched. He's got good size, 6'2", 210. But the breaking stuff is really special. The fastball can hit 98, mostly sits 92, 94. I think I'd like to see him add another couple ticks to that before I think he's more than kind of a starting pitcher 3 in the majors. But the slider's got really good bat missing ability, miss rate of north of 50%. The curveball is also flash plus potential. This is Anthony Ianson with Boston. He's a really fun fit for me, especially with the emphasis they've put on secondary stuff in the minor leagues. This is almost like kind of a bread and butter pick for me. And then my last one, I really liked Riley Quick with the Twins, 2nd round. I think he's got 40 home run potential at 3rd base. I think there's definitely some hit tool questions, but he's a good athlete. He can stick at 3rd. He's got the arm to stick there. I think I think really maybe this is a bit of a hot take, but I think Riley Quick and Ethan Holiday are a lot closer than people want to admit.
I don't hate it. I mean, I think that there's talent. I think the Twins have done a good job at developing pitchers kind of under the radar, but really a lot to like there. I think that you look at that big frame, there's obviously similar school or same school, Ben Hess, but like the traits on Quick are good. So it wouldn't be shocking to see him end up in that Oregon, and it's really popped. So yeah, I think there's a lot of college pitching depth. It's more than I expect as I've really dug in more and more. I'm like, okay, like I kind of like some of these college pitchers down the board a little bit. And there's some good values. If you don't want to spin at the top, like you can move down the board. And
I'm so sorry like there. That. I was talking about Quentin Young. I don't know how I mixed that up, but yeah, Quentin Young. I do like Riley Quick a lot too, though. I think now we're going to see kind of
that makes more sense. The comp now.
Yeah, we're going to see kind of I think last year Alabama was definitely really cautious with him still coming off TJ. I think the fastball a really good pitch. I can hit 99. It's a fun profile to me. 6'6", 260. He's a really big guy. I don't really have a ton of questions here about his ability to stick as a starter, so long as he can sustain the command gains that he showed last year. I don't really have a lot of questions of what is 180 innings going to look like on him. I think the cutter is really interesting. I think the changeup is also above average. Maybe there's plus potential there. Yeah, I think there's upside of maybe a starting pitcher 2, starting pitcher 3 with maybe a floor of a back end arm. Maybe you're looking at an elite closer, but I think the command is a little bit better than it's been given some credit for. So yeah, Riley Quick is another one that really interests me as well.
Yeah, the Twins had a great draft as you mentioned. Young and Quick, and Merrick Houston gives them that high floor. I'm not sure Merrick Houston's a great fantasy asset, but really good real life pick there. James Ellwinger, like certainly some things to like in the third, but they did a lot of interesting things where to me, like that was a really solid draft overall.
Yeah. So to flip the side on it, who are some prospects for you where the red flags are just too big, even if they kind of fall into your lap in an FYPD, you are not considering or trading that pick or reaching for somebody else?
That's a tough one. I think that everybody's draftable at the right cost. I think everybody has warts. I think everybody has risk. We just look back over year at the kind of players. And, Quentin Young's a good example. Quentin Young's a tool shed. He's got everything you want in a potential like fantasy star. Does he hit enough? And I think at some point you have to take that risk. Like in some ways you look at him and say Elijah Green. Also, like Elijah Green was at the top of FYPD boards. I think Quentin Young will probably fall a little bit where you can get him a little bit later. I think Ethan Holiday poses some risk. I guess I'll end up with 0 Holiday shares because I'm assuming he's never going to go outside the top 5 in FYPD unless I'm just like, very wrong. But I think that the reason to draft a Holiday is like the name value and the trade value potentially because, people do love that kind of profile. I'll be curious to see where like people slot Tate Southacene for fantasy purposes because it's not really a profile I love. I think the Braves intentionally made that pick knowing what they were going to do later with Briggs McKenzie and Connor Essenberg. I think Southacene's a fine player, but not one that I'd look to take in like the top 30, maybe probably more closer to 50 in an FYPD. I don't know. Like I don't see a ton of guys where I'm just like completely avoiding. I think you obviously have to factor in risk with guys on the prep side. Like how does the hit tool form? I mean, we look back and like Tamar Johnson was labeled a 70 hit. He was like the best prep hitter we'd seen in a decade. And I mean, now Tamar's probably 40 hits.
Yeah.
It's just hard to say like how these hit tools develop for the prep side of things. Also, like I look at some of the guys that went in the first round that let's just say maybe they don't play as well for fantasy purposes. They're better, maybe real life prospects. I think Merrick Houston kind of fits that mold where he certainly would be a better real life prospect. I look in the comp round and like a Caden Bodine, who
he's actually another one I was going to bring up. Just
tremendous catcher and probably the best hit tool in the draft. Like he just doesn't miss. I'm just curious where the impact is in pro ball. The impact wasn't really there with metal. Since like, okay, like how does this play with wood? I mean, he's going to hit for average. There's no doubt about that. He's good behind the plate. I mean, I like the profile a lot. I'm just not sure I like it for fantasy as much. So like, he's one that I look at, I'm like, I'm not sure like he's somebody I would rank very highly for fantasy and is probably more of an avoid for me, just given I think people are going to look at the draft slot and they're going to be like, okay, like top 30, probably FYPD. And I'm just not sure that I can get there on them. So
I kind of meant that more just from kind of a cost perspective. Ethan Holiday, I'm right there with you on Holidays. I think if I'm looking at a guy with 30 plus home run potential with a questionable hit tool, I can get that kind of profile in round 2. That's just not something I'm looking at with probably a top 5 FYPD pick, especially in Colorado too. That's for me, just, Ethan Holiday, someone I don't anticipate having any shares of unless he falls into maybe that back end top 10, which I highly doubt. So I'm kind of just at terms with that. It's like, I will not have any Ethan Holiday shares. Billy Carlson is another one. I think he's an interesting prospect. I think especially if you can, like we were talking about earlier, if you can get that hit tool to above average, there's a fun player there, especially with his defense. It's a pro, but just from a fantasy side, I don't really want a project prep prospect with, not even one above average tool between hit and power in the first round of my FYPDs. So I think at price and just with his skill set, it's just not for me. And then, Caden Bodine, he's another one. He's probably more of that mid round 2, but I think there's just more upside that I would rather chase later. Is he someone who will hit you 8 home runs in the majors? And I have a lot of questions about that. I think it's, maybe like a second catcher profile with, a good hit tool, good defense. I just don't think there's enough thump there in that bat. So those 3 for me kind of stand out. Jace LaViolette is another one at the right price. Yes, but I don't think he's not somebody that I would take in top 15. The Guardians' history when it comes to these kind of questionable hit guys is Alfonso Rosario. He's one who's taken kind of some strides. Then you kind of look at the Luis Morejos and all the others. So it's kind of a mixed bag for me. I am interested, with was he playing through an injury? I had a scout that I was talking to about him is, he made kind of a swing change last year that looked like it could have paid off for him negatively. So there is some intrigue there. I just think that he's more of a guy I would look at in that kind of a 15 to 20 range rather than kind of just outside that top 10. So he's kind of a wait and see. If he falls, definitely willing to take that shot, but have my concerns as well as kind of where he could go.
Yeah, it's a fascinating profile with Lavalette. I mean, I also look at the situation, and they're a national championship contending team, and their coach up and leaves. You bring in, Coach Early, and it's just like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like it was not the best fit, and it's a completely different system than it was with Schlossnagle. So I wonder how much that affected him, and then they kind of struggle early. Like, how much are they out of it? I don't know. It was an interesting situation. Obviously, we saw some power come back a little bit. The body regressed a little bit. I actually think that he will get back in shape. The athleticism should come back. The contact rates are not as bad as you think, and the approach is good. Yeah, there's some other guys in the first round, like a Fahiva Aloy, where it's a little bit concerning. The contact's worse there. There's some other guys in the college ranks too, where it's like, I don't know. Like, I'm kind of split on Lavalette. I can see taking a shot on him like late first round if it's a 15 team, early second. There could be upside to play with. I'm interested to see him in this Cleveland org, though. It's so different than they either have like the profiles that are all hit, no power, or it's a all power, no hit, like a young Kinsey Noel kind of. So, Lavalette kind of falls more in the middle. So I'm curious how they can develop this profile. They needed this kind of bat, though. Got a bunch of soft hitting guys. Like, they need to hit on this
Harris, Dory Fernandez. It's Luis Morejo. They're always, for me, like the toughest org is like, what route are they going? Is because you look at their farm system. Do they really have a type? I don't really think that they do. I think it's just they have these guys where it's like, okay, maybe this is a 30 home run hitter, but is he going to be a 220, 230 guy with a strikeout rate below 30%? And then you look at these guys as like, okay, he could hit 300, but he's not going to give you double digit home runs. And this is maybe like a utility bench infielder at the big league level. So I don't know. They're really fascinating org, because you look at a lot of these orgs and, there's some where it's like they will kind of take shots on these power guys and, work on developing the hit tool. Like Brewers are kind of one that sticks out in that regard. And then you have these orgs that they'll kind of get these kind of hit over power guys and just try and develop the pop. But the Guardians are just they're a little bit of both. I do like them on the pitching side though, but the hitting side, I'm kind of interested kind of what the philosophy is. Yeah. While we're on it, Charles Davallon, he's another one that I really like. I think he's got one of the best hit tools in the class. I think he's a small guy, but I think there's maybe 15 to 18 home run power, maybe 15 to 20 stolen bases. So I think for fantasy, when you pair that with a good average, I'm interested in that profile. It might not be flashiest, but I think if you're looking at a guy who's probably a late round 2, early round 3 guy in FYPDs who can move quickly with, plus hit tool, above average speed, maybe we'll see about the power. I think it's kind of somewhere in that, average to above average range, but I think it's an interesting profile. And then, you look at the Dodgers too, and just how they've been able to scout and find these guys. Like, Mike Sirota has had a big power surge this year. So I really like the fit too. So I think Davallon, he's somebody I would even consider in maybe kind of the mid to late 30s overall in FYPD.
Yeah, he's a stellar fit. And we know the Dodgers just develop, and they're the best developmental org in baseball. I don't think that's questionable to me. Maybe some others will challenge that, but it's just great development. It's a great fit. The profile, he's running like a 91% overall contact rate, like a 95% end zone, 20% chase, really good power as well, like up to 110, good barrels. Like he kind of does it all. It'll be fascinating to see how this profile translates given the size, like you mentioned. But yeah, I like him a lot. I think this is a really great fit for him, as well as Zach Root, who his former teammate, again, his teammate in Los Angeles. I mean, what a great fit for him to go to this org that just consistently develops guys like over and over and over. And I think that they'll just develop Zach Root, interesting lefty who creates a lot of arm side movement, east-west type, throwing that sinker, but really good arm side. I'll be curious what they do with that pitch. He locates it pretty well, but a good 2-plane curveball, a changeup with like up to 20 inches of fade, Iro slider. I don't know. There's some really good traits here. And I expect them to throw him in this like developmental org, and all of a sudden he could kind of pop and be like a mid-rotation guy, and I wouldn't be shocked at all.
Yeah. No, I think it's with the Dodgers, it's like you definitely look at, I mean, their arms are always hurt, but on the minor league level, they've consistently found kind of these undervalued guys in other orgs. Like if you look at like some of their big rising pitching prospects, like Nick Frasso is a really good example. These guys weren't acquired in these kind of high profile deals or with high kind of capital draft picks. So, they're very good at finding pitching. And then, you're very good at kind of finding guys like kind of right before they pop off. Like Jackson Ferris is another good example. He was solid with the Cubs, but I think, once he got on the Dodgers, they were a bit aggressive with him, moved him to Double-A, holds his own there. He's lost a little bit of stock this year. I'm still in on him long term, but yeah, they do a very good job just kind of developing pitching, especially with these kind of stuff arms. I've got a few kind of listener questions that were asked. I think that this first one is really interesting to me. Does AJ Ewing hit for enough power to be a star?
I don't say he's going to be a star. I'll have a better question like after seeing him this weekend. You always have a different look like after you see a guy in person, like the body. Always curious how that kind of fares. He's actually hit the ball respectably hard. It's like a 88 mile an hour average EV, which is fine. That will play, and he's popped like over 110 a couple of times. It's like those are solid. He hasn't actualized it into game power. You see the speed, obviously, it's great. I think the hit tool is more of a question than people have given it credit for. You look at the overall contact rates, you're like, yeah, they're really good. But there's some other questions I have about just like launch angle, ability to pull the ball, and pull like good fastballs. So that kind of leaves me some questions about the hit tool. We've seen the strikeout rate jump pretty substantially from single to high A. He'll be 21 in about a month, a little less than a month, but it's a good profile. I think the speed's plus or better. I think he's a good glove. I think he can probably hit you 10 to 15 home runs a year, maybe. And then he's going to steal back. So it's a fun profile. I don't think he can be a star, though. I'm not there on him personally.
No, I'm even a bit lower on the power. I see like maybe a 10 to 12 kind of better years power profile. And I'm more interested in this profile from a pro lens than I am from a fantasy lens. Yes, he's going to be a reliable hitter, get you good average. He can steal 30, 35 plus stolen bases. The defense is good, but from a fantasy lens, I think this is more of kind of a just kind of like a low kind of thump power, maybe I'm trying to think of a good one. Yeah, I hate to use Nico Horner again, but that's kind of that's the one kind of coming to my mind. Maybe like, upper end outcome, Jeremy Pena type, but just not really a type that kind of interests me all that much. So I think solid player, like reliable big leaguer. But if we're talking about AJ Ewing as a guy who can hit 18 to 20 home runs, it's a much different conversation than a guy who, as of now, I think 15 maybe kind of an upper end kind of power.
Yeah, I think so too. That would probably be peaks. It's a fun profile, but I don't know. I'm not quite there on him.
No, I don't have him in my top 100. I'm higher on Jacob Reamer personally.
Yes, same here.
I think Ewing is probably a top 150 guy for me. Maybe if we see some power outlook from him, he could push his way in. This next one, this is a tough one, but I'll do my best. I have a couple that come to my mind for this. Who is this year's Connor Griffin?
Man, that's really hard because I think Connor Griffin was a superstar. Like he just had the hit tool questions. Like it was the best prep player in the class, and him and Rayner both got that buzz. And so from that standpoint, it's like, so we need power, we need speed, we need someone that will put in the work to improve a hit tool. I struggle with this. I think that and this is far off, Dale Hall would really have to develop power. He did add some solid mass this year and maintain the athlete and the speed. He's still young, so maybe he grows a little bit. And if he does, like, he's not the Connor Griffin frame by any means. I mean, Griffin's 6'4", probably 220, and he still runs like a 70. I think Still Hall has the potential, though, due to the athleticism and the feel to hit and the angles. I think that's a real long shot, though. I'm not sure that's a great answer, but I could see it maybe. And you would have to squint to say like that could be. I think the other answer is a Quentin Young, but that's another long shot because like I'm not sure the hit tool is remotely close to being there, but could it? Potentially. I'm not sure we see a Connor Griffin out of this class, and there will be, and I say that lightly because there will be guys that develop, that progress. There will be guys drafted late, and you're like, man, that kid's like really good. It happens every year. It's just so hard to peg a guy right now where it's like, okay, like I could see this happening. And I'm not sure like I'm really there. But if you look at power potential, speed potential, you could squint and say it could be that type of profile with Steele Hall and even Quentin Young, but those are long shots in my opinion.
I thought about this one too when it came to this latest FYPD class, and I'm like, I'm right there. I don't see anyone as kind of having the combination of kind of the power, the athlete, the speed, the glove, and still some hit tool questions, but not like a atrocious hit tool even coming into the pros by any means. This is one that I've kind of floated with, not this year's class, but Theo Gillen, if he can develop a bit more pop. I think that's one that could interest me a bit. He's having a really good year in single A. I haven't really seen the game power come in yet, but I think if we could get kind of a 20 home run hitter from Theo Gillen with his speed, with his contact skills, with his defense, he's kind of one that I could see in that regard. Another one, this is more of a long shot, and I think this is probably more of like a floor type than an upside type. I know you like him a lot too. That's JD Dix. Maybe that's more of a next year pick, but I think that's one that interests me. If I'm getting it right, it was like an 88% overall contact rate in the complex level. Don't quote me on that. Just trying to remember if I'm remembering that right, but. Yeah, I think Dix could be a fun prospect. I think each outcome, you could be looking at a guy who between his hit and power, he's got 1+ tool out of there. He's a good runner, good athlete, can stick at shortstop. So I think those two, and then maybe like if I'm going like deep down, longer shot, doesn't have the frame, maybe he can grow into the pop. That's Johnny Level for me with the Giants. That's probably the longest shot of the three, but I think those three for me, I can see kind of having maybe not quite Griffin's rise. I don't see number one overall prospect in any of those three. But maybe some guys who there's potential there with kind of improvement in one area or so to be maybe a top 20 prospect.
Yeah, those are great calls for sure. Guys with that power and speed potential. You could look at it, Tyson Lewis, who's hit the ball extremely hard.
Yeah,
he's got speed. They need to get him out of the complex. It's interesting. He's still floating around there, but we need to see him against more advanced pitching, but he certainly got that pedigree. Luke Dickerson could continue to have that kind of rise, I think. And he's had some bumps since going to single A, but still really good underlying data. So like those profiles as well. Yeah, this draft class is tougher to peg one of those guys, but I think you look at some of the guys from maybe last year and you're like, yeah, you could certainly see that being more the case, but it has to play out because things change and some of these bodies change for prep guys, and we'll see some development happen. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
A lot of these classes that are kind of perceived bad, sometimes just from what I've seen, turn out better than we think they will coming in. And then some of these great classes turn out really atrocious where you have, your number one overall pick, Spencer Torkelson, not a bad big leaguer by any means, but not what you want from your number one overall pick. I mean, even 2019, Adley Rutschman, he's not what you want from a number one overall pick. So I think there's a lot of these classes where it's like it's viewed as a lot better as it will turn out to in terms of big leaguers, and there's a lot that can go wrong in that development time. This is one I haven't even heard of this. I honestly forgot about him, if I'm being honest. But what is going on with former second overall pick Drew Jones? He seems to get forgotten about. Is he worth taking a flyer on in dynasty leagues? Can get him cheap.
I mean, I just think he's a non-prospect. Like, I don't think he's relevant at all anymore. I know you can squint and you can say, okay, like he's done some things at times where like the numbers look decent. The swing's horrific. He can't lift the ball at all. He's not stealing as much as you'd like to see. The glove's there. I mean, to me, like, I kind of wonder if his best case outcome's like a fourth outfielder at this point. And I hate to say that. I'm just not sure the hit tool's there. I don't think the game power is going to be there either. He would have to make a major swing overhaul. And even if he does, like, then what does that affect? Because you're naturally going to hurt something else when you do that. So to me, like, I don't know. I'm just not in on Jones. Yes, he's making more contact this year. Like, that's great. He's also swinging a lot more. The approach has kind of dipped a little bit in the process. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not interested personally. He'll be 22 this offseason. He hung around in single A for felt like ever. And I know he got drafted in 2022. So it's been like, hasn't been that long, but we need to see something out of him. We just haven't seen that. So I'm just kind of like out. Like, I don't think he's in my top 500. I kind of teeter that he's like a non-prospect, and like kind of similar case to Elijah Green. I'm not sure Elijah Green's like a relevant prospect anymore either. Sadly, you talk about FYPDs and the risk, like There you go.
I think to the Jay Allens and, those guys who are kind of non-prospects for a couple of years, and then they kind of take that big rise. And I'm like, is something like this possible for Jones? Because, truly there are prospects that we kind of completely write off. And then they have a really big year that puts them back on the map. And that's oh, okay, maybe this prospect is relevant again. But I agree. I mean, just from what I've seen is I don't like the swing at all. I think it's maybe a Jake Marisnick type, a glove first center fielder, maybe who can rotate in a couple times a week because of his defense is maybe what we're looking at with Drew Jones. But I agree. I think it's just, barring the hit tool can become plus with a major swing overhaul and better contact rates. I don't see a regular outfielder type with Drew Jones. So, I mean, I guess if you can get him in a shallower league for a last round or so FYPD pick, that's probably the price I would feel fine paying, especially if I didn't have a prospect spot to roster that prospect. But that's probably where I'm at with Drew Jones right now is if it's not a very minimal, shot in the dark price, I'm not interested in paying it. And
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, last one I'll get for you, Chris, is who are some prospects that you were lower on and higher on than the consensus, and where would they rank in kind of your top 100 compared to where they are by some other people and other outlets?
Let me pull up my ranks. I honestly don't look at other rankings a lot. I don't want to be influenced. So I'm just trying to think of consensus of how people in the Discord or in leagues value prospects. So let me look down my list. I've probably got labeled hater of some of these guys at some point. I'm lower on.
I've heard anti-A's before on mine.
Yeah, it's always funny. You put the best foot forward with analysis, and it's oh, you hate this guy. That's not true. It's just just trying to be realistic on the evaluation per se. Oh, here's the one. There's my notorious lower one. It's Franklin Arias. It's somebody I sit on almost every night, and I understand why people like Franklin Arias. He really stands out in the high A ranks. He's better than everybody on the Greenville team. He makes contact on nearly every pitch. There's just no impact to speak of. Arias I think he has 4 home runs this year. They've been 99, 102, 101, 102. So it's just minimal impact. Greenville's an easy place to hit. It's the Sal in general, you go on the road, Asheville's a bandbox. It's 290 and right. Greensboro's a bandbox. Winston-Salem's a hitter's park. There's a lot of good places to hit. Arias has hit all of his home runs in Greenville, so you can't really peg any of the road environments, but I'm just not there on the power. I think that he has one above average tool, and it's the hit tool. Otherwise, it's below average game power because he's kind of filled out. Everybody last year was oh, he's a plus runner. He stole 35 bases. Well, I had the clock times from last spring and they were 40 grade. They're 40 grade this year. He's 5 of 5 in high A on stolen base attempts. So you're not going to get the green light. So he's not going to run and steal bases. I struggle with the power projection. He hits the ball on the ground a lot. His EVs are down from last year, which is concerning. Does tell me he could get back to higher levels where he was for 18-year-old last year. But I think he's fine in the field. He's a good shortstop. He's not wow you shortstop. So Franklin Arias is not in my top 50. He's in that range. I think he's a good prospect. I think he's going to be a consistent prospect. I'm not sure he's a great prospect. And when I see him in top 10s, I'm kind of I don't know. This is a guy I've seen far too much to feel that, and I just can't get there, especially when we're talking fantasy. He just doesn't bring fantasy traits to the table for me. So I'm out on Franklin Arias. I understood the hype in the offseason. Everybody wanted to be the high guy on him. I'm just not a guy that I really want for fantasy. I acknowledge the good floor, but overall, it's just I don't know. I'm not there. So lower on Franklin Arias, looking for some others that
I'll get a lower because I've got this
go
one.
ahead.
And I'll preface this. I'm a Red Sox fan, so before anyone accuses me of picking on the Red Sox, but Peyton Tolley isn't I've seen people rank him top 50. I don't see it. I think every time I look back at Peyton Tolley, the question I ask myself is this a big league starter's arsenal? And no, it's not, in my opinion. I think right now the fastball is a double plus pitch. That it's a great pitch. He gets really good extension on it. He's a big body starter, but the rest of the arsenal, I just don't see it. Is the double A numbers are great. 1.93 ERA, 14.4 Ks per 9, 1.93 walks per 9. But I just don't see I don't see a deep enough pitch mix to, I think a best case is like, I don't even look at him in the same tier as like a Logan Henderson, maybe, where he has 2 pitches, but they're good pitches. I think Tully is for me in the kind of low 90s range is like, kind of the performance so far kind of, I think, keeps him in my top 100, but I just don't. I think he's a lot more of a project than some other rankings would kind of lead people to believe.
Yeah, he's a fascinating one for me. And I set on 3 of his starts this year, and he just dominated with the fastball. And it's just such a unique look that hitters haven't seen. The slider's good when it's on. It's inconsistent though, and he manipulates it. He throws 2 shapes, like a sweeper in the like 82 range, more of a traditional slider in like the 86 range. The changeup's a question. It's firm. It is very inconsistent. So I think that he has to develop a true third pitch. I also look and say, okay, the Red Sox completely overhauled this guy this offseason. He threw a curveball. He didn't throw a slider. He threw a slider occasionally. He was a curveball guy, and they just kind of pull that pitch. I wouldn't be shocked if he kind of took another step this offseason. So yeah, I get it. I have the same concerns. I wonder if the fastball being the like really dominant pitch will play. It obviously sets up everything. I think you look at the development potential, it could be there. So yeah, I like Peyton Tully a lot, but I have a similar question of like, can there be a true swing and miss pitch with the secondaries, and can there be a third pitch in the offerings?
Yeah, we'll just do one we're higher on. I don't want to keep you too long.
No, you're good. I think it's Jackson Wiggins at this point, where I've always kind of liked him. He pitches last year. He comes back with Myrtle Beach, and caught him in a very, he was not there long. Luckily, I got to see him once, and he shoots off to high A. And there was some inconsistencies last year with Jackson Wiggins. And then this year, he looks like a stud. And yes, there's been some starts where the walks are a little higher than you want to see. I mean, his last start, it was 4 walks in 4 innings. Obviously an issue, but he's been better with the command. Like, there's been a lot more good than bad with the command profile. You look at the strike rates as well, and like, they've improved. And it's like, okay, like all of a sudden we have an average strike rate. I feel like he commands the ball pretty well overall, and he almost wants to get hitters to chase. I look at the arsenal and I see a 70 fastball. It's like upper 90s with really good traits. He gets triple digits. The slider's probably plus, and there's a pretty good changeup in the profile too. So I look at Jackson Wiggins and I see these guys that like others love, and I like too, like a Brody Hopkins, a Luis Morales, a Hagen Smith, and I almost wonder if Jackson Wiggins is better than those guys. You could even find the same concerns for Jonah Tong. I like Tong a lot, and the results have been there, but does Tong not have the same walk control concerns with a delivery that kind of reliever-esque? And I've got Tong ranked pretty high. Like, I've got Tong ranked 45th in my top 100. I think Jackson Wiggins is in that same tier for me. He's just somebody like I've liked. I've been hesitant to shove. Kind of think I'm just going to shove him this rankings update. And yeah, I'm a big fan of what Jackson Wiggins brings to the table. I know the Cubs are as well, but I think this is a top 50 overall prospect. I think this is a top 10 pitching prospect as well. So yeah, very much in on Wiggins and what he brings to the table.
Yeah, no, I love that. Like, regarding Tong, he's been one. I've kept him in kind of I've kept him in the mid 50s range. I don't like the delivery at all. I think it's a fastball changeup arsenal. I don't really see the secondaries like playing as well against big league pitchers as they are right now. And I have people in my comments right now saying he should be closer to top 10. And I'm like, I don't see that. I don't see that. I think one for me that I'm higher on is Johnny King. I have him higher than Trey Yasavage. I think that there's more projection there. I think the upside is better than Yasavage, in my opinion. I don't like Yasavage is kind of in that like Jonah Tong tier for me. Is like, I don't like the command. I don't like the delivery. And I think with Johnny King, I think realistically, I think it's possible you could be looking at a 3+ pitch guy with solid command. So I think, yeah, Johnny King, I want to say I have him around 65 or 66 overall, but I do think he's someone for me. I could definitely see him cracking my top 50 by the end of season with the way he's pitching. And yeah, I know he's not even kind of a mainstream top 100 guy yet, but I think he's really, I think he's at worst kind of a back end top 100 for me. I just see, every time I watch Johnny King is like, I see a very, very good, number 2, and maybe can he be a team's number 1? And I think the stuff is really good at such a young age. with so much development ahead, I'm really excited for what the caliber pitching prospect Johnny King can be a year or two from now.
Yeah, all the upsides there. The velocity uptick is huge, and that's been the biggest thing for him. Secondaries are great. I think Johnny King's a great call out. And, the Blue Jays consistently get flack for their pitch dev, but their pitch dev is really good this year. They overhauled it. Jeff Ponce wrote a great article on that. So, definitely check that out. If you still think the Blue Jays aren't good at developing pitchers, what they brought in, they've completely overhauled everything, and they're doing it. Yeah. King fits.
I like a lot of the arms in that system. Landon Marutis, Gage Stanifer, Jerron Watts-Brown. They have kind of my type of pitching prospects where it's kind of these quality stuff guys with kind of upside rather than these kind of like high floor types that just don't all interest me that much. Like Tyler Bremner, he's just not he's not a top 15 FYPD prospect for me because I don't see more than kind of a number 4 at the big league level. So Blue Jays are definitely kind of higher on that for me. That'll do it for today's episode. Chris Clegg, thank you for coming on. It's a great conversation about first-year player drafts. Go follow Chris. If you don't, honestly, you're probably one of my favorite follows on X right now. I love the stuff that you consistently put out, especially it's a really exciting time of year with it being July, post-draft. Got a lot of guys coming in, a lot of new guys that a lot of people aren't going to be familiar of. So go follow Chris. He does some great Dynasty content. And Chris, thank you again for coming on. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a blast chatting with you, and really good time on the show. So definitely support Owen, all the production and stuff he's doing with the show and the prospect coverage. So definitely encourage you to do that. Thank you. I'll see you all next time.